Hi, this is Alan Ting, founder of Instant Energy Method and a creator of High Performance Energy for Everyday Life, where I teach busy professionals how to amp up your own internal energy in 5 minutes. Now, Father's Day is here, and I want to do a quick shout out to all the fathers out there, all these amazing people out there. And I want to share with you the one life lesson that I learned from my dad. Now, when I was 8 years old, overnight, I became a mute and I lost my voice. I've just started a new elementary school, and kids would pick on me. They'll take my pens and paper and erasers, and there's nothing I could have said. I couldn't have said, like, teacher, he took my things. So for the longest time, I just felt this inner anger that I couldn't express. And I remember I used to get in fights all the time with other kids, and I'm constantly in detention. And every time when we get in trouble, it's not my fault. The other kids would say, Alan did it. And there's no way to defend myself. So I remember 6 months into this new school, and I got into this huge fight with this other kid. And during the middle of the fight, I lost my shoe, my right shoe. And the kid instinctively picked up the right shoe and threw it like a football across these metal picket fences. Now, at the time, I used to live in San Francisco. That's where I grew up. And, my shoe landed out in the middle of the street. And I know that we're not supposed to go out unsupervised. So after, when recess bell rang, everybody went back to class, I sat there kind of dumbfounded because I didn't know how to go get my shoe. The custodian comes out and looks at me and starts saying, like, why are you not in class? And she's getting a little bit irritated. And I looked up to her and I said, I don't speak English. And then she looked down and she started asking me a bunch of other questions, which I cannot understand what she was saying. So the only thing I could have done at the time was I just pointed my right foot. I'm like, obviously I'm missing a shoe. So she's like, where's your shoe? And I kind of guesstimate what she said, so I just pointed out at the metal picket fence. So together, she held me, we hobbled out, across the yard, opened up the metal picket fence, and picked up my shoe, and I went back to class. That night, I went back home, and I just told my dad, I'm like, Dad, I had it with the school. I'm done, I told him about the fight that I got into, and it was horrible. And my dad said, instead of saying, like, son, you got to go back to school, what he did was he listened to the stories that I told him about, and he said, son, if there's one thing that I can help you with, what would that be? So I looked up with him with all this frustration. I said, Dad, most of the time it's not my fault, and there's no way for me to defend myself. I don't know what to do. So my dad taught me these 2 words, and forever. I learned this, and it's not me. Whenever a situation comes about at school and it was not my fault, I would say, not me. A couple of weeks later, it was during winter time in San Francisco, and the weather was really cold. And they turn up the thermostat where all the heat's pouring in, and I was just suffocating. So I like to keep the window cracked a little bit open. Unfortunately, there was one broken window that we're not supposed to open that I know about, but somebody else opened it. So when the teacher came about and said, who opened that window? This one other little girl said, oh, Alan did it. And my teacher came to my desk and started berating me about why I opened that window. So that day I stood up and told the teacher, not me. And that took my teacher by surprise. Not only I spoke, but also I defended myself. And that day, the whole dynamic changed. The rest of the kids no longer picked on me because I fought for myself. I fended for myself. And they know I was not the guy to pick on. I mean, sure, I still got into fights after that. I'm a boy, right? But, at least I was able to defend myself. So the point of the story is, whenever you start something, there's a learning curve. So be strong, be persistent where you're at it. Because, over time, you become stronger and stronger. And that's a lesson that I learned that I love to share with you, the one life lesson that I learned from my dad. And I'd love to hear about your life lessons from your dad. Feel free to post your comments and your questions on Facebook, and love to hear from you at Facebook.com/The Allen Team. Until then, live your dreams, love unconditionally, journey with your heart by spreading love and joy. And happy Father's Day.